On January 22nd, 2020, the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in the United States. Less than 2 months later, on March 15th, states began implementing lockdown measures.
New Jersey today becoming the sixth state to close all non-essential businesses, joining California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Nevada.
According to the World Health Organization, this disease has killed over 7 million people with nearly 800 million cases in 4 years. Initially, it was reported that the coronavirus began in Wuhan, China. However, that soon became widely questioned by so-called experts. In fact, people claiming it started in Wuhan were being censored on social media. But why? There is only one explanation. The virus was created by the Walt Disney Company. Welcome to a Disney conspiracy. When the first case of the novel coronavirus, aka COVID-19, appeared in China, no one knew what to think. It was this new deadly disease that spread like wildfire. However, as it spread, so did information about it. It led to mass hysteria, hoarding of toilet paper, and most importantly, the lockdowns. Just 4 months before the United States lockdowns began, Disney Plus made its debut on November 12, 2019. In the first year, Disney Plus amassed nearly 74 million subscribers. For comparison, it took Netflix 9 years to hit this mark. Growth this fast for a streaming platform is unheard of. Disney just happened to launch at the perfect time, right before the world completely shut down. Why would a company that tops the box office charts every year develop a streaming service? The Walt Disney Company was falling behind its competitors. They were losing share in the entertainment industry and needed to shift fast. They developed Disney Plus in record time and already had a massive portfolio of movies, TV shows, and more for it. Their catalog spans ESPN, National Geographic, Disney classic movies and shows, Pixar, and more. Nothing could stop them now, except a lack of interest. When Disney Plus launched, it only attracted 10 million customers at $6.99 per month. While that sounds like a lot, it wasn't going to come close to making up the cost to create and launch the platform. Disney took a swing for the fences and missed out big time. They needed something catastrophic to happen. Luckily, a virus shut down the entire world. People were bored. They couldn't see movies, friends, or do anything. So what did people do? They subscribed to Disney Plus. Since then, the number of subscribers continues to rise, and so does the cost. In 2020, Disney Plus had 33 million subscribers and made $2.8 billion in revenue. In only 3 years, by the end of 2023, they were up to 158 million subscribers, making a whopping $8.4 billion. This was a massive increase for the company. They are still behind Netflix, but caught up fast. Clearly, Disney benefited from the pandemic and lockdowns. Disney Plus had a massive few years of growth with people locked in their houses. It seemed like the pandemic got them back on track. When it comes to businesses, what is happening in the world has an impact on your business. Disney had the perfect storm for launching Disney Plus. In fact, a more perfect script couldn't have been written. So it begs the question, was it by chance? Or was it staged? For the Walt Disney Company, their entertainment division is 45% of the business. Meanwhile, their theme parks make up the second largest chunk at 36% of the business. However, during the pandemic, both Disney World and Disneyland shut down. We know what you're thinking. Why would Disney create a disease that completely shuts down a third of their business? The answer lies in the numbers. Yes, the Disney parks suffered during the pandemic. In fact, Disneyland was closed for more than a year. This was mainly due to bad governance by Gavin Newsom and the state of California. A year-long closure was not in their plans, but it worked out just fine. Meanwhile, Disney World was only closed for 4 months. This was the ideal situation for Disney. Being closed for 4 months allowed them to make changes that would forever hurt the guest experience, but help Disney's financial statements. When Disney World reopened during the pandemic, it looked a little different. There were markings on the ground indicating social distancing measures, masks were required, and worst of all, FastPass Plus was gone. That's right, the system to skip the lines was temporarily removed from the parks. This was because of COVID protocols. They did this for 2 reasons. First, it allowed them to maintain the social distancing measures that the government made up. Second, Disney had put severe limits on crowd sizes for the same reason. Because of this, there was no need for a FastPass line as Disney's standby lines were the shortest they had ever been. This opened the door to a new opportunity for Disney, and they haven't looked back. Genie Plus and Lightning Lane debuted in October of 2021. This was a game changer for Disney. Prior to this, it was free for all guests to skip lines. However, with this system in place, it cost $15 to skip the lines and there were more restrictions. Now you can only select a ride once per day versus as many times as you wanted, pending availability. Now, in 2024, Genie Plus prices can go as high as $39 per person per day. Clearly, things are getting out of hand. Not to mention the fact that Genie Plus lines are longer than they were with a free FastPass system. Essentially, Disney is charging guests to skip lines, and they have to wait longer. Despite this, guests keep paying for Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. In fact, there are plenty of days where this sells out. While we don't know how many Genie Plus passes can be sold in a day before it sells out, if Disney sells 15,000 at $39 per person, they generate an additional $585,000 in revenue that day for something that was previously free. That doesn't even include Lightning Lane. Just looking at Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, if they do a 4-to-1 Lightning Lane to standby ratio, then in an hour, 500 people will go through Lightning Lane if they are operating at their max capacity of 2,000 riders per hour. If the average price is $15 per person, they are making $7,500 per hour on that ride for Lightning Lane. If Epcot is open for 12 hours, that is an additional $90,000 for Guardians of the Galaxy each day. Now, across all Disney World parks, there are 6 individual Lightning Lane rides. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Rise of the Resistance, Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and Tron Light Cycle Power Run. If you multiply the $90,000 per day by the 6 rides, Disney is on average making an additional $540,000 per day on these individual Lightning Lane rides. So overall, Disney World is making an extra $1 million with their new paid FastPass system every single day. Of course, there is variation in this, but it gives us a good data point to work with. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Disney had never indicated that they had plans to revamp their FastPass system to a paid system. However, when the lockdowns happened, it gave them an excuse to do a complete overhaul of their FastPasses and start charging for it. This is something that would have been much more difficult to roll out if the parks were operating as normal. The park closure and COVID gave Disney an excuse to implement a paid FastPass system, and it worked. Sure, they got backlash, but it wasn't as bad as it would have been if the park was open and it was a rolling change. In 2019, the year before the COVID lockdowns, Disney Parks generated $26.6 billion. In 2023, Disney Parks generated $32.5 billion. That is a 25% bump in revenue, despite 2019 having record attendance at Disney World. This means that Disney is making far more money off of each individual guest, and guests can see that. From hotels to park tickets to food and drink, everything costs more at Disney. However, what appears to be driving the huge financial gain is Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. Not only did Disney increase their revenue following COVID, they also cut a ton of costs. This includes discontinuing the Magical Express in 2022, which took guests from Orlando International Airport to their Disney resort. While guests needed to pay for the bus, it was an additional expense to Disney that wasn't worth maintaining due to its lack of profitability. On top of that, Disney reduced park hours and staff. Yet again, COVID gave Disney an excuse, this time to cut costs. It just so happens that the Disney parks closing for COVID allowed Disney to completely revamp their line skipping process, going from free to paid. This seemingly has caused Disney to see a huge bump in revenue from their parks. At the same time, they cut out some huge expenses that made the guest experience worse. Despite all of that, guests continue to flock to Disney parks in large numbers and keep spending more money there. In fact, a more perfect script couldn't have been written. So it begs the question, was it by chance or was it staged? Despite hitting a small bump in the road in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, the Walt Disney Company is continuing to set record-breaking numbers for their revenue. Their growth is outpacing the industry. It just so happens when you lock people in their house, they get bored and have money to spend. Putting the Disney universe in their hands on TV leads to record-setting subscriber numbers. Also, closing world-class theme parks gives you the chance to completely revamp the experience. And anytime there's a complaint about additional costs or fan-favorite perks getting cut, there is an easy excuse: COVID-19. Sorry folks, we know you loved free FastPasses, but due to the pandemic, we reevaluated the system and now you have to pay. Sorry folks, we wish we could continue the Magical Express, but due to the pandemic, we can no longer offer this service that didn't make us money. Sorry folks, we know you like going to movie theaters, but due to the pandemic, you're forced to stay home. Luckily, we have a new streaming service for you that conveniently debuted only months before the lockdowns. Sincerely, the Bobs. Is it possible that COVID-19 originated in a lab in Wuhan, China studying gain-of-function research? Yes. However, based on the fast growth Disney has had following the pandemic in their two major businesses, entertainment and theme parks, is it possible that the Walt Disney Company created COVID? Yes. In fact, a more perfect script couldn't have been written. So it begs the question, was it by chance or was it staged?